Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be a carry tier list for patch 7.36b, and who knows, they might release a C patch in the next week and make things different again because they've been releasing the letter patches pretty quickly, like every other week since 7.36 came out. But now I think with TI qualifiers happening and with everything kind of stabilizing a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if they just let this patch go for another month or so, just to like have everything settle down and like kind of settle out, because there were some clear broken things before and they kind of nerfed a lot of that stuff, maybe buffed a few things like Tinker that we've talked about many times that was just absolutely terrible, and then they've kind of evened everything out a little bit. So I think they'll probably let this go. But even despite that, just keep in mind with all the new stuff happening, I'm making this tier list because I think we're kind of settling down a little bit here on the new stuff and figuring things out, but still I would not be surprised if in the next few weeks, next month, even if they don't change anything, that something like skyrockets from what people thought was bad to being really good and really broken, because there's so many different builds and different ways to play heroes now that I don't think everything has been quote unquote figured out. I don't think everyone knows the actual skill, like the actual quality of each hero and each facet and each style of play. Like there probably can be new ways of playing heroes that people haven't really understood yet, and that's probably going to happen. I mean, that would happen even if they, let's just say Valve just died and they never patched the game again. Metas would evolve over time even despite no changes. We saw that in other games like Brood War and all that kind of stuff that never received patches. So not to get into the history of games and all those kinds of things and just like elaborating on the meta, but I think especially with this, with so many changes, we're going to see fluctuations even when nothing is touched with a patch. So anyway, without elaborating more on that, let's just jump into the S tier right now. And the first one is going to be Chaos Knight. And the big thing with this hero is that his facet Phantasmagoria is really, really good. Now his passive is also good because basically you just spawn more illusions whenever you spawn illusions. So he's buying Manta every game. Obviously his ult can spawn a bunch of illusions, which is really good. And so you can get like 3 Manta illusions, which is awesome. And then the other big thing is that this Phantasmagoria ability or facet basically makes it so all of his illusions, including Manta illusions and anything else, are strong illusions. And basically, if you didn't know, strong and weak illusions are 2 different kinds of illusions. And the best example would probably be like Lion, because Lion has Mana Drain and Hex, and both of those abilities delete, like they say, one-shot weak illusions. And so like Manta illusions are the perfect example. You can just press Mana Drain on those illusions and they just disappear. But with CK, that's not the case. So that means that like all these illusions that he's spawning, it's just super, super hard to kill him because he's obviously getting super tanky, buying a lot of strength items, all that kind of stuff. And then they've been buffing him over the recent patches too, because he was really good like 6 months to a year ago or something, and he was extremely strong. I remember winning a ton with him. His Chaos Strike was ridiculous. He played in the off lane. Like you just felt like you healed up like an insane amount from one lifesteal. Well, they kind of nerfed that a bunch, but then they've been buffing his other abilities like Reality Rift, Chaos Bolt. It's almost like they were making him more of a support hero in this way. But obviously now, because they buffed all this other stuff, now he is a carry, he is more of a core hero, and he's really, really good, hard to bring down, and you farm pretty quickly with all this stuff. And when you get really big, really fat, at 25 minutes, you're not really a super, super late game hero. You're kind of like a timing hero when you get like 2, 3, 4 items, and you can get them pretty quickly, and then you just snowball over people. Like it's very, very hard to deal with you. And so that's really the long and short of CK. Nothing super crazy has changed. It's just that these two, the passive and the facet combined, are just really, really good right now. And then next is Ursa. So Ursa, there's not anything super crazy about this guy. I mean, he's basically been built the same way for a long, long time, getting Battle Fury, Blink, other stuff like that. People were even going Octarine because that was broken for a while. I mean, I think you can still pretty much build that. And with the new passive and with the facets here, the passive just basically gives you bonus damage equal to a percentage of your current HP, which is pretty good. I mean, that's just overall is good. It's great when these heroes just get free stuff. Like, it's just like the passives, because some of the heroes, they just already had something innate in their kit, and then it was just kind of taken away from their basic abilities and given to a passive, like Necro or something like that. They already have something that is there, and then they just get that for free. But then, and it's not really a big change. Where Ursa, this passive, this innate ability, it's just like, okay, well, now I'm just doing more damage as I get more health. So you get tankier, you have these 2 abilities that give you like basically invulnerability, and now you're just doing more damage. I mean, I think that's just straight up good. Like the same thing happened with Jug, where he was broken before they kind of nerfed him in the last recent patches, because it's just like you are getting free damage, and that's always going to be good. And then with the 2 facets, basically this one is when you're damaged during Enrage, Ursa gains bonus attack damage. That one's not used as much as this other one because this one is very like situational. I think it could be good against very specific lineups with very specific things that are going to burst you down during that time, and then you get that damage. But really, people are pretty much going for this bear down facet because it just gives you better, it's just a passive thing you don't really have to worry about, and your Earth Shock is just better, and your Fury Swipes just last longer. And then if you do buy like Basher, for instance, that's just better as well because that lasts longer. So it's any debuffs that you inflict are just going to be better. And so that's pretty much the easy, just straightforward one where it doesn't, that's the thing, it doesn't change anything about how the hero works. It's just like you do more damage and you slow people for longer, and your, you know, Fury Swipes are on them longer. Like that's just going to be better. So it's just like everything the hero does, it does the same thing, it just does it a little bit better. And now this hero is just overpowered compared to a lot of the other heroes because you're doing so much more damage, you're hard to bring down, all the same things that Ursa has always done. It's just, like I said, even better than it has been before. And then with all the other, like the really good carries from the last couple, you know, from basically the base point, 7.36, with the A and the B patch, it nerfed a bunch of those really good ones, so now Ursa kind of rose to the top, and that's why it's really up there. And it's also very simple to play in that way. And then we have TA, so next is TA, and the real big thing with this hero is the change to refraction, where now it's basically a shield, where it's not just like you get hit once and it takes the shield, like the refraction charge away. It's actually like a Pango shield or like some other kind of barrier where it actually takes, you know, a certain amount of damage to remove that refraction charge. And so, like, yes, you're getting a certain amount of charges, like 5 charges, but it's more 5 barriers. And so some of these, you know, smaller tick damage abilities that just do like a lot of ticks of damage, but they don't do a ton of damage, in the past, that would just remove the barriers, like the refraction charges, like instantly, basically. But now that's not the case. They basically, because they don't do much damage usually when they do a lot of damage over time. It's basically any damage over time abilities. When they do a lot of instances of damage, those instances are usually very low. And so it kind of makes this shield just really, really good overall, because now you have just, you take those 5 instances, you max out the amount of shield you're getting, and that's just like how much shield you get essentially, except for the fact that the real difference is that last tick, no matter how much damage that does, it removes just the rest of the shield. So if that makes sense, like let's say you just have a little bit, let's say you have 10% of the 3rd charge or whatever. If someone does like 500 damage to you, it just removes that last 10%, and then it goes to the next thing. It doesn't remove any of that next barrier, which is kind of insane. Like if you think about it, that's, I think, the biggest thing with this hero is that you just don't take damage anymore. Like refraction is so hard to remove. Now, yes, certain things are still good, like damage over time abilities that do a lot of damage. Yes, that's still going to be very good, and there are still a lot of them. And still, when you attack them, when you attack the refraction charge, it is still going to remove it pretty much completely for the most part. Like there are ways to get around it. It's not like completely broke. It's not like you take 0 damage all the time, but it is very good right now. And then obviously you have all the other things that this hero gets that like all the heroes get. So side blades, this isn't that big of a deal. It's not like crazy. There's nothing ridiculous about this. It's kind of like what the hero had before. But then you have this thing, which is a little bit of an added thing where the split damage from the side blades slows enemies. And then you also have this refraction facet where refraction gains damage charge every time a shield charge gets consumed. And I think a lot of people are actually using this one because, yes, the side blades are good, but this is really more like something in the lane or later in the game if you're splashing people, but that doesn't always happen. It's kind of situational. It's more that people are going to be picking this one because the refraction is what's broken on the hero, and now you're amping up refraction even more. So like when people attack you and take away refraction charges, you're getting even more damage, which is kind of insane because this hero's all about bursting people down with meld and just doing ridiculous right-click damage. And so now if you combine the fact that you take even, you know, it's even harder for it to kill you, combine it with the insane damage, and it just makes this ridiculous combination where this hero feels broken as shit, basically. It's just absolutely insane. And so that's why the hero's so good right now. It's pretty much the long and short of it. And it does everything else that it always used to do in the past. You know, farms really well, has really good vision, has that silence on the psionic trap, has the ability to teleport eventually in the game, like all this crazy stuff. That's all still there. It just, again, another hero that you just get this added benefit. Nothing was really taken away. It wasn't like there's any downside. It's just you get all the things you used to have and a little bit of extra stuff, and the refraction is better. And that's pretty much Templar Assassin. And then lastly, we have Lifestealer. And actually, Lifestealer, I was debating putting Lifestealer in A tier. It's just that this hero is getting picked a lot. It does have a really high win rate. And so I will put it in S tier, even though it feels a little bit awkward now. I think it's just because how it used to play for the last couple of years, that's kind of gone a little bit. And it plays a little bit differently than it did. And even though before the 7.36 patch, it was still very good. It's just a different hero in a lot of ways. Now, they keep adjusting it for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know who asked for Lifestealer to be adjusted. Like, every big patch, it feels like they change this hero abilities, and I don't really know why, because it was such a classic hero and people just like loved the hero, and then they gave him 2 passives and did all this weird stuff. But regardless, I'm not going to go on too big of a rant. The point is that what they did is they removed the slow aspect of the hero essentially on the passives, and they also removed the lifesteal part of the hero. So you would think that would just kill the hero. In some ways it kind of does make it worse, but now they added that open wounds ability back, so that kind of takes both the slow and the lifesteal and then gives that to Lifestealer in a more ability form. So yes, you don't get this passive slow from Ghoul Frenzy, you just get that bonus move speed, bonus attack speed. You don't get the slow anymore, and then you don't just get the passive that does the lifesteal. You actually get the ability that does lifesteal when you cast it on somebody, and it's a lot more lifesteal than the kind of just passive lifesteal that you had before. So that's kind of the big change for the abilities. And open wounds is really good, obviously, because you can cast it on like people, and then it just kind of is a single target thing where it's not just like this, oh, I'm just generally good at whoever I click. It's like, okay, well, I'm focusing on you, and it's a lot harder for enemies to escape because it's even more slow and even more lifesteal for you in a very specific, like, centered thing rather than spread out over time with jungling and all that kind of stuff. But then Feast, you still get this as a passive where Lifestealer deals damage and, gets health passively when he attacks. So you still get that passive basically that was in the other Feast ability. It's just kind of a passive now, so they just kind of removed that into the innate ability, into his passive, not even really needing to put points into it, and then they just gave him open wounds back as a normal ability. So that's another big thing too, is you kind of got that open wounds was a shard, now you kind of get it for free because Feast kind of was moved to the innate thing. And then obviously you have the 2 facets like everybody else, and really everyone's kind of just picking this Corpse Eater because it's just like obviously another one where if we kind of see a trend here, it's passive, it's easy, it doesn't change the dynamic of the hero, it's just you get 2 HP when you get last hits, Very simple. I'm pretty sure everyone would like a facet that does that, because this hero's a carry, you're going to get last hits. People last hit a lot in this game. Like, it just is what it is, especially as a carry, that is your main job. So now you're just getting more HP from the thing you're already doing naturally, getting stuff for free. You can also get this, but nobody does that. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but I think in the A and the B patch, this was buffed a bunch because nobody's picking this, and I don't even know if anyone is still picking it because it doesn't feel good. Like, why would you give up this free thing that is good for this thing that has a little bit of a downside? Because Rage gets replaced by a different ability, so now you don't have this BKB. Like, it's just awkward. None of these weird abilities where there's downsides really seem to be getting picked that much, especially when you have abilities that are just giving you free stuff. But anyway, so that's kind of what happened to the hero, and it's just really good, again, because you get all that free stuff. You get a lot of these good things that you kind of either wanted to have before or you didn't get as much before, you needed to buy before, like the shard, all that kind of stuff. You're getting it for free, you're getting all this free damage and all this free stuff, plus you can still go the build that was kind of broken last patch. Like, it's not exactly the same, but it's still very similar. Like, you can still go Radiance, you can still go Ags, you can still jump inside of enemies and disarm them and do a ton of damage. Like, all that stuff is very, very similar to what it was last patch. So even though, things were changed a lot with the hero, and it was broken like in the last big patch, it still is pretty good in the very similar way with the item build and all that kind of stuff. Even though you can switch it up now, because obviously you don't get that, you get the attack speed, but you don't get the slow, so that's kind of a big deal, because before it was all about like sticking on targets, you could stay on them forever. That's not really the case anymore, so it does change the build a little bit, but you can still go for it, and so you can still go for these other items that you've been going for a long time with Lifestealer. And then next, going into A tier, we have Troll, and I'll probably go into each of these heroes, and I might stop, once we get down to the lower tier heroes, because there's not as much to talk about with them. But I'll just show you here. Basically, Berserker's Rage is the passive, so it just basically gives, he's one of those heroes that has like 5 levels on an ability, so now you don't have to like choose a thing. You can actually choose, you almost get like a free ability level 1. So there's kind of those heroes that have gotten a passive that's good, or the heroes like Troll who just gets like a free ability level 1, even though it's not the best. But then this hero is kind of one of those heroes that does get free stuff with one of the facets. So this facet gives armor per stack while you're in melee form with Fervor. And so getting that armor is just, you know, an extra buff to the hero. No one's really picking this bad influence one because, again, it's kind of a situational thing. It has to do with allies. It's just better as a carry to like buff yourself. Like, it's just going to be better in almost every situation. So that's the main thing that's happening with the hero. And like I said, you know, Troll's never going to be good till they change the ult. I just don't think it's going to be like the best hero, the broken hero, the S tier hero. But hey, it's getting there. I could be wrong. I mean, they're buffing a lot of other stuff about it. So if they just really, really buff everything else about it, and this hero is just like insane to deal with, then yeah, of course, it's going to be really good, even though you can't control yourself. But I'd rather them just change that aspect of the hero and then just like make the other stuff not as broken. But hey, I mean, I guess it's not as bad as it used to be. It's not as weird as it used to be. I'm kind of getting used to it now, and I think people kind of are used to it. So in any case, I mean, that's Troll. There's really nothing special to say about it other than it has a lot of ways to deal with stuff. Like, for instance, the Ags is really good if you need to dispel a lot of things. This hero just mows down towers really quickly. It farms really quickly. It's a great laner. It can spam out spells. And then obviously because you're getting that level 1 free spell, it's very good. So there's all these things that I kind of just combining where the hero's just getting buffed like over the time, because I think for the last 5 years it's been so bad. So they just keep buffing it, and just rising and rising in the ranks till now it's like pretty good. It's getting picked a lot, and it is very good. Then next we have Weaver. Weaver's one of those, another one where, you know, you just get those 2 attacks with Geminate for free, which is really, really good, obviously, because having that ability, like, you know, level 1 is just going to be good. It's another one of those. And then this Skitter Step, which slows enemies when you kind of Sakuchi through them, that's just a bonus thing, which never happened before. So now you're chasing people down, which you're very, very fast. But that little extra slow just gives you just that tiny, tiny bit of extra ability to chase people down and kill them, especially in the lane, which is great. This Hive Mind can be good as well. It's just kind of a little bit awkward. I mean, the Weaver support is kind of coming back, so that's more of like the support thing. It's just not going to be chosen as much because this is going to be like better. But hey, if you do want to get this XP kind of facet, it can definitely be possible. But it's just like a little bit awkward. You're not going to be using this as much in the carry role. Like, you're going to be farming more, and yes, you're going to be using bugs in different situations, but this is more of something if you're like starting with bugs, you're spamming out bugs, you're not really worrying about Geminate attack as much, and that's more of like a 4 Weaver kind of thing. And so that's what I think the idea is behind both of these facets. So we're probably going to be getting this one. And again, you're just getting bonus stuff. You're getting a level 1 ability for free. You're getting this slow for free, and that's just helping Weaver, who was already kind of on the upswing in the last patch. And so overall, this hero is pretty good right now. Then we have Tiny. I think this is the hero that basically survived all of the nerfs. So if you didn't know, and I'll kind of go to B tier really quickly, is that Juggernaut, Wraith King, and Tiny were like the carry heroes that were broken of the patch after 7.36, like the main patch. And then the A and the B patch came along to nerf like these heroes. I think all 3 of them got nerfed like in both patches because they just were so good. But Tiny, I think, survived the most. So if you didn't know, he gets this passive that just makes him tankier. Like, it's just harder to bring him down because every time you attack him, he just takes less damage. And then these 2 facets are pretty good. Getting this extra resistance is always going to be good, and then getting toss unit slow bonus damage to other targets in that destination is going to be good too. This is kind of more of the 4 Tiny, I guess you would say, so you might take this more if you're playing carry Tiny, but still, these are all good. Like, all these things are just good. And then also you do insane bonus damage to towers still. They did nerf that a little bit in this last patch, which makes him not as good, but you're still doing ridiculous damage with your tree. And so Tiny has just gotten was insane, like just deleting towers, deleting people, but he is still very, very good. People are still picking him. His win rate is still high, so he has survived some of those nerfs. He's just not as broken as he once was. I personally love playing Tiny. It just always feels so good to just like cleave people down and like, you know, destroy the tower like in 2 clicks, and then just like be doing insane amounts of damage. And so I love, you know, carry Tiny. I always like when it's a patch for carry Tiny, but in the past, whenever Carry Tiny came about, it just felt too broken and like they couldn't nerf it without just deleting it. But I actually think they finally found a place where Tiny Carry can exist without being like so OP it's ridiculous. So that's Tiny. Not too much else to say about that. Then Faceless Void, there's really not too much to say about this hero because it's just kind of good, and it just has been good for a long time in all the patches. And really, they didn't do very much to the hero. Like, they gave this time zone ability to the hero, which sucks, and nobody ever picks. So they're just going to pick this one, which prevents all damage for a short duration after Time Walk, which, again, another thing where it's just like a little bit of a buff. Not only are you buffing, you know, you're kind of getting rid of all that damage with Time Walk, and now you have this temporal immunity for a little bit. Plus, you have this distortion field, which again is just a buff. Projectiles are slowed in an area around you, which is a little bit awkward. It's not necessarily, it's kind of weird to feel it out, be like, how good really is this? But hey, it is something that is beneficial. So you're just getting those bonuses. You're never picking this, so it doesn't really matter. So nothing really changed all that drastically with the hero, in a similar way kind of to Ursa or like some of these other heroes. You just got like some better things, and now they play the same way, and so you still have Chrono, you still have the same build, you're still doing a lot of the same stuff, so it's still really, really good. And then lastly for A tier, I'm going to put PL here, and I don't think this hero has actually as high of a pick rate or as high of a win rate, and I'm kind of saying this is here for pubs, but I think this one here, like if I was putting it where it like should be quote unquote for the Dota 2 Pro Tracker and trends and all that stuff, I think it might be in B tier, like kind of over here in the cheese tier heroes, but I'm actually going to say it's on the upswing. I think it's actually way better than people realize, especially because you can just pick this, and you don't really have to care about the illusions, and a lot more people can play this hero when you pick this divergence ability, and you just don't have to really micro. And because of that, I think you can just actually play this hero. It's almost, the skill cap is a little bit lower, I guess you could say, but it just allows so many more people to play the hero that you don't have to worry about all these little things about the hero, that you can just literally play it like a normal carry. And then as if you go late game, this hero's ridiculous. Like I played a game where I think, no, we didn't get mega creeps. We needed one more racks, but you know, I think there was a couple people on my team like throwing or doing stupid stuff, and I was like off lane or something. It was like a roll queue game, and we were playing against a PL, and everyone on the enemy team was like terrible except for the PL. He was actually pretty decent, and he was just like spamming. It got to like 60 minutes, and we couldn't do anything. Like there was nothing we could do. Like there was just illusions everywhere. They were attacking us. We could never find him because he's like invis half the time too, and we're just like, this is ridiculous. There's nothing we could do, and eventually we just lost the game because, I mean, obviously we probably should have won the game if we coordinated a little bit better, but it was just so insanely hard to deal with. And so I think, you know, this hero's always been good late game, but now it's even better. I think more people can play it, more people are going to be able to be good with it, so just watch out for that hero. And I think if you want to practice this hero ever and you want to get good with it, you know, there's still some weaknesses. It still has some counters, stuff like that. You know, Storm Spirit is still good, which is good against this hero. There are still things you have to look out for, but in a lot of cases, I think you can still destroy with this hero, and it's very good and on the upswing, like I talked about. So that's A tier. Next, we're going to go to B tier. I'm not going to like go into too much depth with these heroes. Juggernaut, I think everyone kind of knows this hero just got like bonus damage, a lot of bonus stuff, the Dispel on the spin, all that kind of stuff, really good. It just was absolutely broken. Definitely S tier for a long time, or not for a long time, but at the new patch 7.36, and then they, you know, nerfed it a couple times, and so now it's back down to this B tier. It's still definitely pickable, it's still definitely good, it's just not absolutely insane. They kind of nerfed it into the ground a little bit. It's just not like totally back down to like D or C tier or wherever that it was for the last few patches. So it is still definitely pickable, it's definitely pretty good. I've seen it in some games and do well, it's just not absolutely insane. And that's the same thing with Wraith King. People were like, you know, the skeletons were a huge thing like a few patches ago before the big patch. People were picking it even off lane like 6 months ago or so. That's kind of not a thing anymore as much. It's more just a carry, and they're getting rid of the skeletons, and they're just going straight in on that right click damage, and also because of the ult allowing you to just kind of like, after you die, you still exist for a while, like you have a free Ags. That is really, really good as well. So they nerfed all of those kinds of things, so now it's just not nearly as broken as it was before these last letter patches, but it's still very good. You can still definitely pick it. It still has those same strengths. It's just not, the numbers aren't just as insane as they once were. Then we have Monkey King, kind of a middle of the road hero, just not the best, not the worst. He's getting picked a decent amount, but he's not like insane. He didn't get like as much as all these other heroes. I think the biggest thing that this hero got was actually that you can now kind of leave your ultimate and then go back into the ultimate within a certain amount of time. So you don't have to worry about casting it in a weird, awkward spot and then getting like pushed out of it immediately or something like that, or leaving it in like a, you know, for a split second because you feel danger and then you can come back in, you know, any of that kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about that anymore, which is really, really good, because later in the game, the ultimate is just so key for, you know, taking high ground, for defending high ground, all that kind of stuff, you know, doing Roche, anything like that. And so because that's such a focus of the hero, having this ability to like, you know, not just have it end instantly is just a really big buff. And I think that's one of the biggest things with the hero. Then next we have Marcy. So Marcy's kind of one where didn't really get any crazy insane buffs. Like the facets are kind of boring. Like they're just like lifesteal, or like the one's sort of a support facet. The other one's more of a carry core facet, or just like lifesteal or protective shield kind of thing. And then the passive is a little bit awkward because it just feels a little bit shoehorned in, where everyone's courier level 1 on your team is like flying, or level 3. I think that's flying or whatever. And it's like also harder to kill. So it's like a little bit better. Like overall, but this hero's not going to be like a carry because the couriers are better. So I think really just overall this hero is good because it's been on the upswing recently. People realize, okay, you can just buy, Battle Fury, BKB, and you're already insane. You do ridiculous damage. And I think obviously pairing it with like something like an IO, which I think Marcy IO was like a broken combo there for a while. It's still pretty good, I think. It just, you can do these kinds of things and have a pretty stable, good carry. You can farm pretty quickly, all that kind of stuff. You have lifesteal. You can be very, very hard to deal with in certain games. Plus with all these other, all this other farm on the map, all these other heroes that are destroying games from mid and off lane and all that kind of stuff, I don't think it feels bad to ever really have a Marcy on your team, especially because this hero can buy Battle Fury and farm, or you can just participate in fights and absolutely destroy like the early and mid game as well. So that's pretty much Marcy. Then Wind Ranger, again, nothing crazy new with this hero. Really, it's just that her movement speed overall has been buffed with her passive and then her facet that usually you're going to get, because the other facet is like spread damage or whatever on your ult, which I've seen a couple people do, and it's like, it's just weird. I mean, I think it can work in certain lineups, maybe if you have like a Darkseer on your team or something like that or whatever, I don't know. It just not really, it's one of those where you lose something and you gain something else, and that always feels weird. And I feel like if you can see a trend, it's like all these heroes that are good just get like free stuff. And so she does get free stuff in the movement speed category for herself and her allies, and then people just realize, she's decent, she's kind of just middle of the road. That's why she's B tier. Does the same thing she's always done for the longest time, for about a year since she became universal. Gets tanky, buys Maelstrom, all that kind of stuff. Pretty straightforward. The new one that is kind of on the upswing, very good, is Shadow Fiend. He's more of like a mid, I'd say. People are picking this hero mid and just destroying with it. I know I'm going to talk a little bit about the mid here, but the same thing applies to the carry Shadow Fiend. Is like, I was playing against a Shadow Fiend once mid, and he literally dove tower like 6 times in a row. He would just TP into lane, and then he would just raise me like a 50 billion times, just run under tower and just dive me. And like, the thing is, the first couple times it actually didn't work. Like, well, he killed me and I killed him or whatever, but or I can't exactly remember what happened, but then like eventually it just kind of snowballed out of control where my support didn't come and then he had a support come and he just kept diving in her tower because the raise slow is insane. So they actually nerfed the raise slow last patch, I think, on the B patch, but it's still kind of ridiculous. So like, if you get close to this hero, if you even, let's say you're an offlaner and you walk up to the wave to try to last hit, and this hero raises you once from the near close raise, you have to be really careful, because as you start running away, he raises you a couple other times, maybe has a couple mangoes or like a lotus or something, and then he just runs you down and raises you 50 times and you just die because you have like you have like negative infinity move speed and you can't run away. That's literally what's happening, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, that kind of raise combo where you're stacking it has always been pretty good, but now the extra slow just seems like you literally can't walk and you can't do anything after 3 raises. It's kind of insane. And then the hero is also pretty good with like multiple combinations of builds. You can go for, probably not in the carry role, you won't go for like the Blink and the Yules and the ultimate build, but the ultimate build is definitely a thing that can be really, really good. It's just from the carry role, you're going to do more of the right-click Shadow Fiend, which makes sense, but that's why this hero is kind of more B tier, which I think from the mid lane is kind of broken, because you're going to be going for the more raise and the ult build, which is kind of insane right now. So that's Shadow Fiend. Not much else to say about that. Then Pudge has just gotten a lot better. Like, the hero just didn't, when you read the patch, it didn't feel like there was anything crazy good about the hero. They made the curved hook thing and no one cares about that. But now, like, the hook with the range and the tankiness, this hero just feels insane. From the carry position, it's getting picked a decent amount. I haven't really seen that much Pudge carry, but it's pretty much good in every role right now. Pretty good as a core, probably more of an offlaner, can definitely be a mid if you know what you're doing, and can definitely be a carry, and it's kind of like a cheese pick, I would say. That's why it's on the end here. I usually put the cheese picks over here. So Pudge is sort of a cheese pick, but it's definitely pretty good if you have like carry mid, carry offlane type of heroes. You just need this tanky boy to go in. That is definitely something you can do, and Pudge can be very good in those situations. Nothing crazy new about the hero in terms of like the build or how you're tanky or anything like that. Like, they did change around some of the stuff, but it doesn't really make the hero all that different effectively. Like, you're still building a lot of the same things, getting ags and doing all that kind of stuff. Then we have Clinks. This hero's a little bit, not awkward, but I would say I'm putting it in B tier. I put it as more of like a cheese hero. It's just one of those where it's hard to really fit where this hero is. Is it like going to end up more as a C tier? Because I think right now it's on the upswing. People are kind of testing it out, seeing how good it is, and I think it's kind of on the rise. But maybe, maybe it ends up being A. Maybe people realize it's really good. Maybe in another patch it gets another buff and other things get nerfed and it ends up being great. Or maybe people realize, this hero's not actually as good as we once thought. But basically, Again, not too much has changed for the hero. You just see people buying shard more to farm quickly. You just see it melt towers. You see all these little things. Basically, no one is picking the facet where you like change locations with your death pack. That's just like not happening anymore. But the hero now has strafe and similar things with the sticky, like the tar bomb. It's all kind of the same stuff, just a little bit better than it used to be. So now you can run around, pick people off. You can do insane damage, just melt towers, do all those kinds of things, and then farm pretty quickly with your shard. So there's nothing super new. It's just that it's kind of on the upswing. I think it's pretty decent right now. Then I'm putting Arc Warden at B tier. I don't know. This hero maybe you could argue is a cheese hero. It's C tier. It's not really getting picked much. We haven't seen much of it. I think it's just always kind of in the middle of the pack, especially in pubs. If you're good at the hero, I think it's still viable. I think it's still definitely playable. Actually, you know what? Because I realized that there's some nerfs to the hero with like different things of how the shield works and stuff. I'm actually going to put it in C. I'm going to just move it down because it's one of those things where you just never see it. So it's really hard to judge, and you see like maybe a very, very low pick rate, but a decent like win rate, and it's like, well, what does that mean? Where does it actually go? Because clearly the only people playing this are like spammers, and maybe they aren't even playing it that much, and it seems to be winning sometimes, but maybe they're picking it in like the perfect best games. So anyway, I think it's probably more of a mid anyway. I don't know. It's really hard to say. So it's either B or C tier. Like it's definitely still viable. You can still play it, but a little bit awkward. And then Meepo, similar kind of thing. Like I could maybe even put Meepo in C tier. I think people have been trying to pick Meepo a little bit more because it did get buffed a little bit. It still does a lot of the same things though. It still has like the dig ability, still has the Mega Meepo, all that stuff that was there when it was broken, you know, like 6 months ago or whenever it was. It's still there, not as good as it once was back then, but still viable, got buffed a little bit. Nothing crazy to say about Meepo. Then we'll go to C tier. So the first heroes in this C tier, like the first string of a few heroes, are just kind of classic carries that are just good, but not the best. So Anti-Mage, this hero's decent, but then the fact is you don't get that slow anymore when people are out of mana. You do have this weird like Bloodseeker mana thing with like, you know, where you can see people if they're low mana, but that doesn't feel that great. It's like I would rather have the slow where you can get aggressive in lane. And then the other thing is the old reflect or counter spell where it just like put the stun on someone else. So let's say there's a lion trying to stun you, like he's going to stun himself. That doesn't really happen anymore. It doesn't happen anymore for like Doom and things like that. So that feels awkward as well. Those things just feel underpowered. And the things, because they were taken away from the hero, and then the things that it got in return, they're good, but it would have felt a lot better, like some of these other heroes, if it just got those new things for free. I think it would have been like maybe a B or A tier hero if it just got that stuff for free and no real nerfs. But that's just kind of the situation it's in. And so now it's like definitely viable, decent, but it's, you know, still pickable, but not very good. And then Slark is another one where like this hero was just good for so long, it kept getting nerfed, and now it kind of feels like it fell off because so many other things got buffed. And the hero didn't really get anything for free. Like, there's really nothing here. Like, yes, the ultimate regen, I think, got buffed a little bit when it got, you know, for the past few years, that was one of the big things that got nerfed a lot, actually, when it got all these other little buffs. But now, like, you kind of have to get the passive and the facet that you're going to pick, because the other facet's a little bit awkward, are just things that you already had, and now you're just getting them, but like in your facet and in your passive. So really nothing changed about the hero. You didn't really get anything for free, where all these other heroes, you know, you got other stuff for free. So that's just why this hero feels a little bit awkward because of that. There's really nothing super special that you like feel really good about having with the hero. Then we have Drow. I put Drow in C tier overall because like the win rate is actually pretty bad. It's getting picked a decent amount, I guess you could say, not that much, but like it really doesn't have a very good win rate. And I kind of was surprised about that because I thought Drow would actually be a decent hero, but I think just so many of these other heroes got buffed so much more that it's really hard to play Drow right now, especially when there's heroes like Storm and other things that just jump on the hero, Void Spirit, whatever. It doesn't feel nearly as good as it did last patch. It didn't get as many free good things. Like, again, nothing super changed about the hero. There's no like drastic change. It just got some free stuff, but it didn't feel that good. Then Razor kind of fell off compared to the other heroes. Again, another one that you just had something already, like move speed, I believe, that went to the passive, and it's just like, okay, well, I didn't really get anything. Some sort of like Slark, the stuff I already had got moved over, and now I didn't really get any buff. Like there's nothing crazy new about Razor. He doesn't feel that good, that new. And so that's, I think, why it's in the C tier here. It's definitely viable and pickable, but just not that great. Gyrocopter, another one where it's a little bit awkward because there's nothing new and crazy about the hero. You can kind of see the theme for C tier. It's like where you can disassemble stuff, it just feels like, well, when am I really even going to do that? Maybe more as a support you could do that with Gyrocopter, I guess, but like, you're not going to do that as a carry. It doesn't really change the build, or no build that anyone's really found, at least. I mean, that's one of those things where maybe as people experiment, they'll find a build where you can disassemble stuff and it's going to be really good. I don't know, but we haven't really seen that yet, and otherwise it's kind of the same hero. It's pickable, sure, but nothing crazy new, nothing great. Probably actually better more with the magic build as like a support these days. Medusa, another one that didn't get anything crazy good. Like, it just kind of is the same hero. I think it's definitely viable, definitely pickable. You can definitely own some games with it. But again, you know, what are you really doing that's crazy different than what you did before? Nothing. There's not that much insanity there. You didn't get like mega giga nerfs or mega giga changes that just destroyed the hero, but again, nothing ridiculous. Alchemist, I think, is definitely a hero you can pick. Again, another one that not super different. Some small minor tweaks that were buffs, but pretty much does what Alchemist does. And it's finally, like I said, I think I've said this in the last like 6 months of patches where, well, now that they changed Alchemist to have the passive of Grievel's Greed automatically, it feels like this hero is just, where before it felt like F tier or S tier, now it's actually kind of just sitting in the middle of the pack where it's a hero you can pick like all the time, but it's never like broken or never just dog shit, which is interesting because that never used to be the case. Then we have Naga, just middle of the pack hero again. The real thing is that like you get these, you kind of get the two facets where it's like the one is just objectively worse and the other one is just what you already had kind of. So again, why do that? Why pick that? You know, pick one of these other heroes that got all this free stuff. Pick the PL or something. Try that instead of the Naga. A little bit awkward. Then I'm putting Broodmother here only because it's getting picked, I guess, a little bit as a carry. I was not even going to include this hero on the list, but it is getting picked some as a carry, and it has a decent win rate. It's just not like getting picked very much, so I don't really know what to think about that. I know Brood is on the upswing. It is kind of getting more popular now, so watch out for the hero. It can kind of play every core role, like, because the core roles have kind of flattened out in a way. Like, everybody's getting a lot of farm, everyone's kind of doing a lot of the same thing. That's why you're seeing a lot of like carry from the offlane stuff. So Brood is a similar one where it just kind of was in the other roles and now it can sort of play carry. I guess like Wind Ranger would be another similar thing where it never really played carry before, but now it kind of can. So I'm just putting it here for you to watch out for that. And then we already talked about Arc Warden. So then lastly, we have D tier. We have Luna. This hero just pretty much received 0 buffs. It was really good last patch. It kind of received some nerfs, and then nothing super crazy changed about the hero. If anything, it's just like worse. So that's why this hero is all the way down here. I still think you can play it. It's just like, it's a worse version of Gyro or Medusa or something like that. And it's like, do I really want to even pick that? Because already these heroes aren't that good anyway. Then we have Phantom Assassin. They just kind of like deleted the hero back from, you know, whenever long ago, 6 months to a year ago when it was really broken. And then the, you know, the facets that they gave it are just not very good. Like, what are you doing with this hero? It just doesn't feel great at all. Like, especially the one facet is just not pickable at all. So now it's like, okay, well, we're just doing the same thing that we always used to do, except it's actually kind of a little bit worse. Then Bloodseeker, very weird right now. Feels like not a hero that's a carry. No one really knows where this hero is going. I don't even think it's being picked that much at all. It kind of just feels like a dead hero. Maybe someone will eventually figure out a way to make this hero like good in some position, just not right now. Sven, I was surprised actually that this hero hasn't been picked more because they gave him a lot more damage and a lot more buffs overall on little things, but I forgot actually until someone mentioned it to me that they actually nerfed the hero with the bonus strength and stuff, which really made all that damage that they're giving him kind of just replace the damage that he used to have. So in a lot of cases, this hero just got worse overall instead of better. Again, with all these other heroes getting all this new stuff, Sven got like nothing. And then Ricky just feels really awkward right now. You don't farm very quickly. They nerfed him and then they gave him some buffs. It's just like, again, one of those heroes sort of like Slark where they took a bunch of stuff that he had and then moved it over, and it's just like, well, that feels weird. Like, because he doesn't farm very quickly, he doesn't feel like he's getting kills very quickly anymore. Like, the bonus agility and stuff that he's getting on his tricks of the trade, you don't feel like you do any damage. And this hero really is only good from the carry position when you can run around and just really kill people instantly in the cloud with your diffusal. And I played it a couple times actually, and it feels like you can't even kill supports with the diffusal and the cloud anymore. Like, it feels pretty bad. Spectre, kind of a dead hero right now. Nothing super crazy to say about that. They didn't change the hero all that drastically in the patch, I don't think, and there's nothing really great about the hero. Muerta, another kind of like dead hero right now. Like, again, you can pick these guys. It's not like they're unpickable. Like, they can still be played as carries, but again, nothing crazy. Lena, this hero is more of a mid, I would say, with the way they changed the hero. It just plays like a mid rather than a carry. There's still the carry, like right-click build that you can go, but it's more of like the, the magic damage build that you're going. Plus, if you combine the fact that you get that free level 1 spell and you get this like burn damage over time with your spells, that kind of is more about dominating the mid lane than it is about like doing well in the lane with carry, because you're going to push the wave automatically by like burning the creeps down when you use your dragon slave and stuff like that. So that's why it's just not as good of a carry. Then like the last two are more of, I guess you would say, niche or cheese heroes, which is Morphling. Just kind of feels really, really bad right now with the changes. Again, another hero that just didn't get anything good. It just, if anything, got worse overall. Feels very awkward. And then Lone Druid, it looks like it has a good win rate, but it's like never getting picked, ever at all. So that's why I'm putting it in a D tier, especially as a carry. Like maybe it could be a good mid or something else like that, but as a carry, it just feels not good. The changes were very awkward. I think there is potential where like you make your bear even stronger, where the ult can be on the bear or something, like maybe a very early Ags build. But I think this is a potential hero where like they just haven't figured it out yet, and maybe if they figure it out, just like shoot up the charts and get really popular. But right now, no one's really playing it. It just feels weird. Then finally, we have F tier. All these heroes are basically dead. Terrorblade has like a 30% win rate or something. It's absolutely ridiculous how bad this hero is. Bristleback, both of his facets just make him worse than he was before. Now, I will give him some credit. I have seen him played a couple times in like higher MMR games or in pubs, and it can be kind of good maybe as like a support or something. It's just a little bit awkward right now, especially because you basically have to choose a facet that makes something about you worse than it was before. Sniper, absolutely dead hero, especially as a carry. The one facet is completely bad, and everything else about the hero is just not good like it was before, especially against all these other heroes that are just way better. Nature's Prophet, I guess, I mean, maybe you could play as a carry, just, I don't know, it's kind of a dead hero in a lot of ways. They kind of changed maybe to give you that like one treant or something. That was like the big thing on the hero, and they also like nerfed the sprout in the laning stage for support. Other than that, they didn't really do much to the hero to make it like a viable carry or anything. Unlike Tiny, which I think has been F tier for a carry for a long time, they kind of rocketed him back up, but Nature's Prophet has not been one of those heroes. And then Dawnbreaker, I could almost honestly even remove this hero right now because it just feels like it hasn't been a viable carry for a long, long time. So I could just remove that hero altogether. And then lastly, if you stayed for the whole video, you get to see this part. You might be wondering, people might comment in below, be like, well, where's Venge? I see it on Dota 2 Pro Tracker. I'm putting it here in the I don't know what is even going on category. Like, I know there's like melee Venge. Is that even like a thing? I don't even know what's going on. Like, I see this hero actually getting picked off lane a bunch and being pretty good. But I see people picking it as a carry, like dominating the lane, having a good attack animation, like, just hitting people and just destroying them. But then it just feels like, well, you don't farm that quickly after the lane, so you dominate the lane, and then like, well, now you're a Venge. I don't know. Like, someone explain it to me. Someone let me know. Is this hero garbage and people think it's good, or is it actually good and people just haven't figured it out all the way? Or like, I don't know where to put it. Like, I kind of want to put it A tier or B tier, but then kind of part of me says like, this is actually not good, especially in your pubs if you don't know what you're doing, if your team isn't good. You're kind of playing like, it's almost like you're picking an off lane as a carry, and yet you're doing more damage, but you want to focus. It's like if your mid and off lane are more damage dealing kind of carry type heroes, you can pick the Venge. It's just a little bit of an awkward one, so I don't really know where to put it yet. Let me know what you think in the comments where you think Venge should go, because I know people are picking it, people are trying it out. We'll see what happens with that, but that's one of those weird ones. So anyway, guys, that is the carry tier list for patch 7.36b. Hopefully I don't release a letter patch this week and it just invalidates all these videos that I'm about to make. But in any case, guys, let me know what you think. The meta is constantly changing, especially with all this new crazy stuff. Let me know what you think, if some other heroes you think should be changed in here, or moved up or down or whatever. And as always, guys, if you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, all those kinds of things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.